should you max out your walls or not? This is the question I have spent many sleepless nights thinking about. So in order to find an honest answer, I went onto the streets of San Francisco to find out. Does walls matter?
No, it's about the motion of the ocean.
Okay, since I had no clue which ocean she was yapping about. Was it the Indian Ocean or Pacific Ocean? Then I thought I would take this matter into my own hands and find out. So today we are at my laboratory where we are going to make tests with Buff Bezos, a highly intelligent CEO who uses his time efficiently by not wasting a single second upgrading walls, and Donald Trump, who on the other hand is obsessed with walls. On both of their accounts everything else is completely maxed out. Now in order to get legitimate data out of this scientific research, our participants will be using the exact same base. Over several days, we will be testing all three aspects: farming, trophy, and war. For all the decoration collectors, next few seconds might cause some mild symptoms of discomfort, but these bases have to be as clean as a recruit's head on the first day of boot camp. In order to relieve your anxiety watching many years old trees being cut down, I gave the builders some Red Bull for extra speed. After cleaning the last few spots, it was time to do the exact same thing with Buff Bezos's base until nothing was left. Once the base was nice and clean, it was time to activate all the best layouts, starting with the farming base. Meanwhile, testing their ability to protect millions of gold and elixir, we are also going to start the first clan war. As you can see in this experiment, we have many volunteers who are willingly ready to help us get through this very important research. Now in order to drive in some accurate data, there are three last things that have to be done. Firstly, we need both accounts to have same amount of trophies. Secondly, we need the exact same defending CC troops, which of course were picked according to what Mr. Educational yet entertaining suggested. And lastly, this research has been in preparation for many years and has cost millions upon millions of dollars in order to keep these two gentlemen here, and especially Donald Trump, who has required us to buy him golden toilet paper. And most of it all, he is really missing to meet his good friend Xi Jinping to talk about tariffs. In order to keep the laboratory running, kindly use code Jaso in any purchases you make. It was 2:36 in the afternoon and it was time to get the ball rolling. After waiting for 1 day and 5 hours, there was a 7-star attacker with bunch of teenage ninja turtles knocking on Donald's door, taking away all the loot that was left exposed for the gold addicts to grab. Now in order to start analyzing does walls actually matter, the first metric we are going to look at is the percentage stolen. For that we will take the total amount of loot available to calculate the percentage of each resource stolen. So out of all the gold available, the sneaky goblins were able to steal 86.14%. And now we will combine everything together to find out the total percentage stolen among all the resources, which is 78.26%. When it comes whether your walls are maxed or not, then the following troops do not give a flying fork about wall levels. They fly over everything they want while destroying all the buildings on their way. Well, kinda. What's the percentage stolen? 41.40%. These were the only two defenses within this time period against Donald Trump. Next up, let's see how well did Buff Bezos's base perform. First of all, we have Andy, who was rather surprised to see Base as naked as Minion Prince even with his metal pants on. As you can tell, once again the first threat we are facing are these very dangerous 93 jumping thieves. What's even more dangerous is Archer Queen's giant arrow. Yup, it can pierce through all the walls like a knife through butter, and this is the first indicator why walls matter. But this is not all. What is about to happen next will turn everything around. In this regard, Buff Bezos is actually very intelligent because he understands human psychology of an average sneaky goblin spammer, which is that they are not very smart. They still use jump spells on almost non-existing walls, which means it doesn't matter if you have Queen with giant arrow attacking your base or not. This attack would have ended the exact same even if it had maxed out walls. Even though goblins have access to the last gold storage thanks to the giant arrow, then it wouldn't have made any difference with Donald Trump's bases, and he still had 3 jump spells left to use. For this particular attack, the loot stolen from the total amount available was 86.66%. To keep talking about differences, then the next one was no different when it came to players getting their satisfaction out of shooting a giant arrow through the entire base. Despite making Buff Bezos's base completely vulnerable, then in the end none of the heroes decided to walk into the core anyway, which made no difference in the outcome of this attack. As the dragons flew down towards the last buildings, then it became even more obvious that this attack would have ended exactly the same against a base with maxed out walls. As this number right here suggests, then the loot stolen percentage this time was 100%. As you might have noticed, for some really weird reason both accounts received almost the exact same attacks for their first two defenses, but where the difference comes in is here. Within 1 day and 5 hours Buff Bezos got attacked 2 more times, one of which we can't quite count towards the actual data as this person simply sent his old man to rob a bank, but the 4th defense was actually a proper good old DD spam. What we learned from this attack is that the party doesn't last too long if you take bluebirds along with you. In this case the total percentage stolen was 78.44%. Despite not including the data from the attack where my gold storages got nuked, then there is still one very valuable lesson. Wall levels don't matter when your defenses are maxed out, because when Mr. AJ comes across your village then he will be afraid to attack you with his bowler army, even if your walls are level 1. Anyway, this is not all the data collected, as we tested these bases 2 extra days, and here is a quick recap of that. Right here we have a captain who is obviously having lots of fun watching how his army of Valkyries and Pekkas decided to take the longer route in order to get the daily 10k steps in, leaving the queen behind to die. Total percentage stolen is 35.87%. Next person was clearly only there to take back some of the stolen oil from the Donald trunk. Total loot stolen 10.85%. Next up, something tragic happened as it got overwhelmingly ran over by electro dragons. After Donald got tripled, there was one last attack which ended like this. Buff Bezos got attacked 4 more times, first of which was Super Witch Pecker Army, 54.87%, 81.1%, 34.4%, and lastly 60.1%. Basically within the same time frame, Donald Trunk received 6 attacks while Buff Bezos received 8 attacks, which could mean that having a base with maxed out walls can be a little bit more intimidating to attack. More importantly, when we calculated the average of all the attacks against each bases, we found out that Buff Bezos lost 21.37% more loot than Donald Trunk in the same trophy range, which means the change is quite significant after all. Will there be a similar 20% difference when it comes to trophy pushing? Well, after activating the best bases and spending raid medals, it was time to find out. The only issue before making another significant discovery why walls matter was the testosterone levels of our participants. After winning the elections, Donald's testosterone spiked, so we had to bring it down to match the other participant. That was no easy task, as we had to find an exact opponent who Donnie had to lose against. Since there was no one on planet Earth, we broadened the search to other planets and we found who. Now we were finally ready for the tests. First of all, Buff Bezos got attacked by a highly intelligent, almost Albert Einstein type of human being who had most certainly done his homework when sending down 11 packages of Thor's farts. After such a devastating lightning storm, the dragons had developed a taste for rock music, which led them off course, resulting in Buff Bezos getting a head start in front of Donald Trunk. Yes guys, as you can already probably understand, then for this test we are not looking how much someone steals resources, but rather who will finish at the top of the leaderboard at the end of 48 hours. Meanwhile, at the other side of the pond the situation was rather similar, as Wines had brought Thunderstorm to Donnie's village. The only difference was that MJ knew the power of his lightning spells when it comes to killing the eagle. Not only that, but he also knew how to take out the town hall and claim that 2nd star. But now something very important happens. It's little over 1 minute left and Barbarian King gets stuck behind this wall that he keeps hitting for almost 25 seconds straight, and then another wall for the same duration. If it would have been a level 1 wall, then it would have taken BK 2 seconds to destroy a single wall, which means it might have almost been a 3-star if it was Buff Bezos's base. Going back to Buff's residency, there was yet another thunderstorm along with a wall breaker dragon who was burning down the level 1 walls with simply breathing on them. It's a common knowledge that bluebird attackers have 99% fail rate, then this attacker was one of the rare people who belong into the group of 1% who actually can 3-star a base using ED spam. The exact same thing happened in Donnie's base, except it was the point of view from those who belong into the 99% group. Although I must admit that without too much neuron activation, Mom had managed to get fairly close to 3-starring the base. Meanwhile, at the other side, things were going both west and east, but despite attackers' inability to properly funnel, there was an important discovery to be made when it comes to all levels. As you are about to see right here, these Valkyries forgot their glasses at home, as they didn't see that they would have saved 5 valuable seconds by breaking through this wall to axe the defending queen. Instead, they took the long road. That teaches us an important lesson: that current state of troop AI in Clash of Clans doesn't care if you have maxed out walls or these piles of poo laying around your village. In contrary to that, here comes some statistics that prove us otherwise. After 2 days of testing, both participants had received the same amount of defenses, where buff Bezos ended at 1,395 cups and Donald Trump at 1,512 cups, which means buff lost 26 trophies while Donald gained 91 trophies. In order to make a final conclusion, we need to take into consideration the most insight-providing test that was conducted in the span of 2 separate clan wars. Both times both bases got tripled with one attempt by the same attackers, using the same strategy back to back. So does walls matter?
Of course.
Don't tell anyone else, but if you will click on the left video, you can see me in real life along with some extremely entertaining Clash of Clans troll base compilation. Have fun.